your deliciously smelling hand cream on.
Okay.
I hope we're not recording. Oh, we are. Great. And somebody's at my door.
I'm walking up, I'm leaving.
All right, we are preparing live stream preview. Give me just a second. All righty. What's the title of this show? Teen Dating Violence Awareness. Teen Dating Violence. Oh, we spelled just got it. I am muting myself and we are going live. So give me just a second. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hello to Laury and hello to Allera and hello to those of you who are joining us live. So welcome to the RCC Roundtable. Today's discussion is all about Teen Dating Violence Awareness. It is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And so we're going to have a very interesting conversation surrounding that topic. My name is Kelsey Bryant. I am the Prevention Education Coordinator with Lifelines Counseling Services.
And my name is Laury Rowland, and I am the Program Coordinator for the Rape Crisis Center.
And Ms. Paget.
I'm Allera Pageant, and I'm the founder of Girls with a Vision.
Well, thank you, ladies, for coming today and spending this time with me. And like always, we're going to jump right into our discussion. So what would you ladies say is teen dating violence? What would you kind of, what definition would you have for that? Or some examples would you have for that? And whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I guess several different examples of teen dating violence might be, and Allera, I might steal some of your answers that you were going to say, so I'll just throw a couple out there. If you're in a relationship where there's not, I guess first of all, if you're in a relationship where there's fear, if there's any kind of fear, then that is not a healthy relationship. If you're in a relationship where there's not mutual respect and trust, then that's also not a healthy relationship. So for me, those would probably be 2 or 3 of the big key points there.
Right, I would agree, yeah. And when we talk about healthy relationships, trust is always one of those big things that you need in every relationship. And let me just kind of back up for a second and just say, you know, some of the things that we will discuss today might be triggering for some of you that are watching now or that may watch later. So just make sure that you take good care of yourself. And if you need to go speak to someone about something that you heard, just make sure you do that, okay? All right, Miss Paget, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I feel like when we hear teen dating violence, we immediately think like it's always physical abuse, but I think emotional abuse is very big now for whatever reason. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's the social media generation we're living in or what, but I feel like belittling someone, downing someone, not supporting someone, all of that is also dating violence.
Would agree. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, yeah. And I think most people do think of when, you hear teen dating violence that it's all physical. And it's so much more than that. I was reading some stats from, I think it's called loveisrespect.org. And they gave a very important stat that 1 in 3 teens before they are adults will experience some type of teen dating violence, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional. 1 in 3. That's quite astounding.
That
So,
is,
yeah,
those stats are staggering to hear that our young people are going through that.
right, right, absolutely. Any other examples you ladies can think of?
I think when we think about teen dating, sometimes we might try to categorize them into the very young teenagers, but we need to kind of think about your older teenagers broaching on young adulthood. And I feel like some of those other things that we see a lot or we hear a lot when we talk to young people is that there's not only is there a sense of like power and control by the dominant individual in the relationship, but they try to isolate them, keep them away from their friends, keep them away from family members and things like that. So when we start to see a lot of that distancing, a lot of that isolation, that really is a red flag that we need to pay close attention to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for the individuals that may be involved in those relationships, those things are really hard for them to see and comprehend. So I always tell a lot of the teams that I work with that you may not want to hear it at the moment, but for those family members or those friends who there's something about your partner that they don't particularly care for or like, or they just outright, they don't want you to be with them. That's for a reason. It's not that they're jealous. Most of the time they're seeing some things that you cannot see and that you're just not taking notice of. So I think it's very important to kind of, listen to your support system. If they are telling you something is just not right, you might want to kind of take notice of that and listen to them. I know that's not easy for everybody to do though, because you think people are in your business trying to tell you what to do, but I really think it really is for your own good.
Kelsey, that is a perfect segue. I had a quote that I was going to share at the end of the roundtable, but you opened the door up perfectly for this quote. And, in the spirit and in the honor of Black History Month, I'm going to quote Martin Luther King when he says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." So if you really kind of think about that quote and what that means based on what Kelsey just said, if you see something, say something, because so many times dating violence is what happens starts so slowly and it's so subtle until you're in a situation to where you're completely beat down or manipulated. You're not able to think for yourself, make choices for yourself. And that's happened so gradually that the person that's being abused doesn't even realize it's happening. So it's really up to those on the outside looking in to not be silent and to say something, because it can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And there are different ways of saying something, and supporting a person that is in that situation. 911. I mean, you don't have to be a superhero and jump in. If you see something like occurring in that moment, you don't have to have a cape on your back and jump in and save the day, because that could be very, very dangerous for everybody involved. But definitely know the resources in your community. There are so many different ways to help and support someone who is in a dating violence situation, right? So what about males? Are males, are they survivors as well of teen dating violence? What do you ladies think?
They absolutely can be.
Yeah.
And just like male survivors of sexual assault, they are not going to report. They're not going to come forward or seek services because, I mean, what male wants to admit that something like this has happened to them?
Exactly.
And it happens for the same types of reasons and the same types of dynamics that, it does the opposite. But it's much, much harder for a young man, I feel, to come forward and say that something like this has happened. And
Yeah.
he's exercised that restraint by not hitting back or not, illustrating the emotional abuse or any of those other things.
Yeah.
And so, Alleria, what do you have? You have some thoughts on men and how they respond to this type of dating violence?
I agree with everything you said. I feel like men are just less likely to report, sadly. And it's just the fact of not wanting to seem less masculine, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes those that identify as male are left out of so many different scenarios, when they can be just as affected as anyone else. And no matter who your dating partner is, whether his dating partner identifies as male or female, abuse is abuse. It does not matter. Okay, and we absolutely do not condone that at all. But I think they do get left out of the scenario a lot. And I have worked with some teens before, and the male's female partner was, of course, the one that was abusive in that situation, because we were talking about teen dating violence. And I had to let them know that just because she's female does not give her a pass.
Right.
It does not make it okay. It's not any less, offensive or hurtful or damaging than if the tables were turned. So I have to let them know that is not okay. And I think sometimes we forget that. Yeah. All right. Anything else on that particular point that we need to hit on?
I just think I would like to add, Kelsey, that, any males out there that might be watching right now or might tune in later to watch, just
Right.
let them know that there are resources out there available for them. And there
Yes.
are agencies that are there that are non-judgmental, that are going to listen and, assist and help in any way that they can. So
Yeah.
it breaks my heart to think that there would be anybody that thinks that they'd have to walk this journey alone. But if they think that they've got to walk it alone because there's no one out there that cares, is even that much more sad. So just know that there are resources out there for you.
Absolutely. And in just a second here, we're going to kind of go over some of those resources. And I know, Laury, you kind of had some things that you wanted to discuss as far as some other resources and things that people can look into. What do you ladies feel like are some of the effects of teens, the after effects after they have been in those relationships, in those situations? What do they suffer from or experience after that? Or even while they're still in the situation or in the relationship, how does that affect them?
I feel like being in a dating violence situation, it will create self-esteem issues. I feel like you'll be less likely to open up to a person eventually too. Even if you do find the person that is 100% for you, by your side, ready to work through everything, you're still going to pull back just a little bit from that person, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of carrying that hurt and that baggage into other relationships. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think what's so sad about that is that so many times the person who's being abused is of that mindset that that is as good as it's going to get for them, because that's all they deserve, because they've been so beaten down and they've been so manipulated, that they feel like they don't deserve, like
Right.
Alleria said, to have that champion by their side that's going to work through everything with them and walk that road with them. So that if the violence starts and they're accepting of it or tolerant of it or just don't know how to get out of it when they're in their teenage years, that typically is going to transcend over into any adult relationships that they have.
Yeah.
So the college students that I always work with, we always talk about this, and I say if they are exhibiting this behavior when you're dating, they're going to exhibit this behavior when you're married.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
chances are that that's going to happen, and so they need to be aware of that. And I think so many, not even young people, just so many people in general, when they're in relationships like this, feel like perhaps this is, I've completely lost my train of thought on that one. I saw the chat pop up and I lost my train of thought on that. But I think that we feel like that this is all that we deserve because
Right,
we've been in this type of relationship. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, that was my exact thought, that if we do not address these things now, and you know, break those cycles now, then we do see that in adulthood. We see 30, 40, 50-year-old, you know, adults that are crumbling.
Right.
They're
Or
not
they're
being
going-
able to function.
They're going
because
from
of things-
relationship to
Right.
relationship to relationship because of those things.
Yeah. And the person that they are being abused by is totally, I mean, the perpetrator is a learned behavior. So if you go back, their parents or their grandparents, or they learned it from somewhere, it's their environment.
Right.
So it just keeps going. And we do have a comment from Facebook. Hey, Angie. So Angie, says that self-harm is a big one that she sees in her practice as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So thank you for that comment, Angie. So yeah, self-harm is a huge one that we see. Depression, being suicidal. I mean, just anything that you can think of. Eating disorders.
Risky behavior.
Yes, all of the things that you can think of that would harm a person, you know, after trauma, physically, emotionally, psychologically. Yes, absolutely. Yes. All right. All right, any other thoughts before we kind of move on to some of those resources that Laury has for us? What do you have, Laury?
Well, I think probably one of the best resources that I have used is a foundation called the One Love Foundation. And if you're not familiar with it, I know Kelsey and I are very familiar with it because we do a lot of escalation workshops for college age and high school age students. And the escalation workshop is really a workshop that specifically discusses healthy dating relationships and unhealthy dating relationships and the tragic results that can happen if you are in an unhealthy relationship and do not recognize all of those red flags. So I would encourage everyone to visit onelove.org. And the foundation was actually started back in 2010 by a mother of a young woman named Yeardley Reynolds Love, who was killed because of her unhealthy relationship. Her ex-boyfriend killed her. And it was a foundation that she started because she had no idea that dating violence was even a thing. And she did not notice or did not know what to look for in the red flags in her own daughter. And so she just wants to create awareness so no other young people have to die at the hands of, you know, an abusive partner, whether that be dating or domestic violence or whatever that may look like. So that website again was onelove.org. And when you go on it, they have lists of 10 or 12 red flags for healthy relationships, for unhealthy relationships. They have videos, they have blogs, they have all sorts of things that are extremely helpful. They have a chat line, so it's a great resource and it's a great organization.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Laury. And loveisrespect.org is another great website. You know, if you're just looking for some tips and things that you might be able to do to even support another person that is in that situation. And I think one of the best ways to support someone who is in a violent relationship is to absolutely believe them. You know, the same thing that we would tell someone who has been sexually assaulted, we believe you. We absolutely believe you. Believe that person, support whatever decision they decide to make, because ultimately it is their decision and whatever they decide to do, whether we agree with it or not. So just support that person in the best way that you can. Be non-judgmental. Be that listening ear for that person. And just like we stated earlier, you know, abuse can come in many different forms. The emotional abuse, the physical abuse, but it can also be sexual. So if you yourself or anybody that you know, a friend, family member, a colleague, a classmate, if they have been affected by sexual abuse, please direct them to our hotline at 251-473-7273. That is our local number. It is 24/7. And we don't want to be, you know, another best kept secret here locally. We want to be able to support you in any way that we can. So please reach out if you need to. And Ms. Paget is also one of our volunteer advocates, so she can tell you firsthand, you know, how it feels to be able to advocate for people that may not be able to advocate for themselves at that moment. So that is very, very huge. All right, so Allera, if you will kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your foundation, please.
So I'm 21 years old. I'm about to graduate in May from the University of South Alabama.
All right.
I'm so excited, y'all. So
And you
um,
should be.
I know it's been long 4 years, but I currently work at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm not too sure what I'm doing after, but I'll let y'all know soon. But I have a nonprofit. It's called Girls with a Vision. We mentor girls ages 11 to 21, and basically we are all about teaching them professional skills, self-worth, and just different things that they need to get through life, honestly.
Awesome, thank you. Do you have a website or some other social media sites that they can follow you?
Yes, ma'am. So we are on Facebook and Instagram at Girls with the Vision AP. And then our website is Girl with a Vision AP. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. And ladies, we have another comment from someone who has joined our conversation today. Laura Ann says that she participated in an emotional and verbally abusive relationship from 2017 to 2019. And it took years to heal from the inner voice, as well as toxic coping skills such as eating disorders, alcoholism, and addiction. And she says that she is grateful to be 21 years sober today. So yes, Laura Ann, thank you so much. And free from the self-hatred. So thank you so much for sharing that. You are very brave, and we really appreciate that today, and you joining the conversation. I'm sorry, not years of, not 2017 and 2019, the years, but from ages 17 to 19. So yes. So thank you for that correction. Thank you so much for sharing.
Laurie,
Right. Yeah.
thank you very much for sharing. Others will read those words and hear those words, and that statement that you made may give somebody the courage to be able to do what they need to do to break free from that relationship. So being brave enough to come forward and to share that part of your story with us and with the viewers is really remarkable. And like Kelsey said, very brave, and we do appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. So anything else, ladies, that you can think of that we need to kind of hit on today?
Just briefly, Kelsey, one thing that I would like to mention is if we have any younger people watching or tuning in later, I think something that I hear a lot is that they're afraid to say something because they don't want to make their friend mad, or they don't want to lose their friendship, or
Right.
jeopardize their friendship, and that's got to be very tough. When you're a young person, that's a very real thing, and that's got to be very tough to worry about that. But what I always try to encourage them and help me, Kelsey, with the young people that you work with, is that you may lose that relationship, possibly temporarily, possibly it may never come back, but what you will have gained is the knowledge that perhaps you've helped save somebody's life, or you've helped get somebody out of a really dangerous situation. So again, I completely understand and respect how hard that decision would be, but again, if you see something, you have to say something, because and there are multiple ways that you can say it. If you say it once and you're not heard, just continue to say it. Tell other people, coaches, teachers, parents.
Absolutely. Yes.
Just to try to get the word out, because the individual that's in that relationship, they do not see what's happening, because something bad might happen, and then the abuser is going to do something sweet or something nice.
Yep,
and then they'll do something bad, and then they'll do
Mhm.
something again. And so it's such a mind game, and it's very confusing, and not just to young people, but even more so for them, I think.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. No, those are great points. And you talked about, them doing something, then doing something sweet, and then the abuse comes back. It is definitely a cycle. It's called the cycle of violence. So it's a whole thing that they do. They're very sweet, And then it kind of builds up to that explosion, to that abuse, whatever that abuse looks like. And then they come back around and they're apologetic. And, you know, it could be sweet words, it could be gestures. I mean, it could be elaborate things. But trust me, the abuse will happen again. It will happen again.
One thing I would encourage everyone to do is at some point go online. You can Google dating abuse quizzes. There's several out there. You'll find some on One Love. You'll find some on Love is Respect. Just find them and go through that test and take a look at it and really think about those questions, because if you have just one or two that you're answering yes to, chances are your relationship is not a good, healthy relationship. And you need to take stock in that. But it's just a dating abuse quiz.
Yeah. And Laura Ann has also commented again. She said it's how we heal. How we heal. So thank you so much, Angie and Laura, for your comments and just your love today and your support. And we also have someone else, Garrett Brown, who also used to volunteer with us.
Garrett!
So hey, Garrett. And he also commented, he said, very true, very, very true. So good to see everybody in the comments. That just made me very happy and very excited. So
It did me too.
Yeah, for sharing
Awesome.
your comments and your thoughts and just being those heroes in the community. So we really, really appreciate it. And thank you, Allera. Thank you, Laury, for joining in today. It was a great conversation. I'm sure we could probably keep going for forever. Yeah.
When you end it, stay on.
All right. So we will be back next month with a different topic. So we hopefully will see you back for that conversation as well. So make sure that you keep an eye on that announcement that will happen kind of close to that date. So we will come back with a different topic, possibly some different guests, but still same great conversation. So until next time, thank you all so much and take good care.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Allera.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. Let me stop the recording too.
Okay.